I never thought a single flight could change the course of my life. Yet, as I boarded the interstellar cruiser Aurora's Grace, I had no idea that the seat beside me would harbor someone whose presence would alter my understanding of courage, love, and humanity itself. The cabin was hushed, dimly lit with soft blue ambient lighting. Passengers drifted past, wrapped in their own pre-flight anxieties and excitement. I had been traveling as a liaison for the Earth Interstellar Council, assigned to deliver a message of goodwill to the planet Virilia, a planet famous for its strategic alliances and advanced technology. I expected diplomacy, political small talk, perhaps a few hours of uneasy silence. I did not expect her. She appeared almost silently, as though the universe itself had arranged her to enter the cabin with perfect timing. The alien princess of Virilia, Starliner, moved with a grace that was impossible to describe. Her skin shimmered faintly, a delicate pattern of silver and teal veins that glimmered in the cabin lights. Her eyes were vast, dark pools, rimmed with iridescent flecks that seemed to shift when she blinked. And her presence, commanding, serene, yet strangely vulnerable, made the air around her feel different. The flight attendant's voice cut through my reverie. Seat 12B. I glanced down at my boarding pass and realized, with a shock I could barely contain, that I was sitting next to her. Next to the princess of an alien world. My hands trembled slightly as I settled into my seat. Starliner regarded me for a long moment, her gaze calm but probing. I felt as if she could see through me, through the layers of human pretense and fear. Then, she inclined her head slightly, a subtle acknowledgement. I cleared my throat, trying to summon some human semblance of dignity. "Hello," I said. Her lips curved in what could almost be described as a smile. "Greetings, human," she said. Her voice was melodious, carrying an undertone of authority. "I am Princess Starliner of Virilia." I'm Jonathan Ray," I stammered, utterly aware of how inadequate my introduction sounded. "I'm representing Earth on this mission." Her eyes lingered on me for a moment longer, then she turned to look out the window at the stars streaking past. Silence fell, heavy and charged. I debated whether to speak again or let her be. But some inexplicable force compelled me to break it. "It's beautiful," I said softly, nodding at the view outside. She glanced at me, her eyes reflecting the infinite cosmos. "All worlds are beautiful if one takes the time to see them." Her words were simple, yet they carried weight. There was an intelligence and depth in her observation that made me suddenly painfully aware of my own human limitations. I realized, in that moment, that I wasn't just sitting next to a princess. I was sitting next to a mind that had been trained in diplomacy, strategy, and the complexities of an alien world. And yet, in her words, there was something undeniably human. Hours passed in silence, punctuated only by the soft hum of the ship. At first, the silence was uncomfortable, but gradually, it became a shared space, a quiet intimacy that did not require words. Every so often, she would glance at me, her gaze gentle, almost curious. I felt my chest tighten, a strange mix of awe and nervous anticipation. Then came the turbulence. A sudden shudder ran through the Aurora's Grace, lights flickering as the ship navigated an uncharted asteroid field. Passengers gripped their seats in fear, but Starliner's composure never wavered. She reached for my hand. "Do not fear," she said. Her touch was light, but it sent a shiver down my spine. "Your species fears what it does not understand. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in its presence." Her words struck me harder than I expected. I realized that sitting next to her, I was not just an observer. I was part of a story far larger than myself. The turbulence subsided, and I found myself looking at her with a new understanding. She was royalty, yes, but also a being capable of empathy and insight, a being who could see the humanity in someone as ordinary as me. By the time we reached Varelia, the tension between us had shifted. What had begun as awe had evolved into a quiet connection, subtle and profound. At the spaceport, representatives from Varelia welcomed us with ceremony and protocol. I followed her through halls of glittering crystal and advanced technology, feeling increasingly out of place, and yet somehow significant. During a briefing with her council, I noticed Starliner watching me more than the others. When I spoke, she listened intently, her expression unreadable yet deeply attentive. It was as if she weighed not just my words, but the intention behind them. And when I made a point about humanity's potential for cooperation across species, her lips curved ever so slightly. After the meeting, she requested a private tour of the city. I hesitated, uncertain whether it was protocol or personal interest. When I glanced at her, her eyes seemed to ask a question without words. "Will you walk with me?" I agreed. As we stepped into the streets of Varelia, the city's architecture overwhelmed me. Towers of crystalline structures, streets lined with luminescent flora, bridges that seemed to float in midair. But my focus kept returning to her. She spoke softly about her planet, her people, and their traditions, but I sensed that she was testing me, gauging whether I could see beyond the alien, beyond the surface, to the soul beneath. We came to a quiet plaza overlooking a waterfall that shimmered with bioluminescent mist. Starliner paused, her gaze on the cascading water. "Jonathan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do humans always walk beside those they barely know and feel connection?" I swallowed hard, unprepared for such a personal question. "Not usually," I admitted. "But sometimes the right person appears and everything changes." She turned to me, her eyes wide and luminous. "And if that person is a human?" Her questions silenced me. Not because I did not know the answer, but because it was impossible to articulate the storm of emotions swirling inside me. I reached for her hand, taking it gently in mine. The warmth of her skin, the delicate pulse of life beneath it, anchored me in a way nothing else ever had. "Then," I said finally, "I suppose everything changes." For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. And then she smiled, a real, unguarded smile that lit her face in a way no crown or protocol could. She leaned closer, and I felt the magnetic pull between us, undeniable and exhilarating. Days passed in a blur of diplomatic engagements, tours, and secret moments. Each encounter drew us closer, each conversation revealing layers of personality, intellect, and humor. Starliner had a curiosity that mirrored my own, a desire to understand and challenge the world, and me. And in return, I found myself pushing beyond my human limits, striving to meet her mind, her heart, and her expectations. One evening, as we watched the twin moons rise over the crystalline city, she turned to me. "Jonathan," she said, her voice softer than ever, "I have seen many beings, many species in my lifetime. But humans, there is a spark, a resilience, a warmth. You embody it." Her words struck me, not as flattery, but as revelation. She saw humanity, the messy, imperfect, passionate heart of it, reflected in me. And in that acknowledgement, I felt a surge of pride and humility. "Starliner," I said, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart, "I see it too. Not just in humans, but in you. In the way you lead, the way you care, the way you notice what others miss. You've changed me." She studied me silently, and then, in a motion that felt almost ceremonial, She placed her hand over my heart. And you, human, have changed me. I did not expect to feel this connection with another species. Yet here we are. That night, the palace gardens became our secret sanctuary. Beneath the glowing flora and the alien stars, we spoke not as princess and envoy, but as two beings discovering something rare and profound. She laughed at my clumsy attempts at Varillian poetry, and I marveled at the way her eyes sparkled when she shared childhood stories. Weeks passed, and with each day, the bond between us deepened. Diplomacy became secondary to our personal journey. I saw her vulnerabilities, the weight of responsibility she carried, and the moments when her royal composure faltered in private. And she saw mine, the fears, the doubts, the human flaws I could never hide from her. On the final day of my mission, I expected formal farewells, perhaps a handshake or a ceremonial bow. Instead, Starliner met me in the palace atrium, her expression unreadable. "Jonathan," she said, "our time together has been brief, yet I cannot ignore what has grown between us. Will you stay? Not as an envoy, but as yourself." My heart thundered. The impossible, unimaginable reality of her question made me dizzy. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I will stay. Not for duty, but because of you." Her eyes glistened, and she stepped closer. "Then we are together," she whispered. And in that moment, I knew the universe had shifted irrevocably. One human, one alien princess, bound not by politics, but by something deeper, something neither species had fully understood. We sat together in the palace gardens, hand in hand, watching the twin moons rise. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the promise of what had begun, a love that transcended worlds, a connection that defied expectation, a story that humanity and Varilliah would remember for generations. And as I looked into her eyes, I understood that everything had changed the moment I sat next to the alien princess, and nothing would ever be the same again. We sat together in the palace gardens, hand in hand, watching the twin moons rise over Varilliah. The glowing flora swayed gently in the alien breeze, casting shimmering reflections across her skin. For the first time, the weight of titles, duties, and worlds between us seemed to dissolve. "Jonathan," Starliner whispered, her voice trembling with something almost human, "hope, wonder, maybe even love. You've shown me what I never thought possible. That one human could touch a princess's heart." I squeezed her hand gently, my own voice raw with emotion. "And you've shown me that humanity isn't just about survival. It's about connection. It's about moments like this, moments with you." She leaned closer, and for the first time, we abandoned protocol entirely. No crowns, no titles, no distant worlds, just two souls, human and Varillian, discovering what it truly meant to belong to each other. The twin moons reflected in her eyes, and I realized that everything, the journey, the fear, the unknown, had led to this singular truth. Sometimes one moment, one seat next to the right person, could change the course of everything. And as the stars blinked silently above, I knew with certainty that our story had only just begun. A human and a princess, two worlds intertwined, moving forward together, forever changed.